All right, so let's talk about the next 10x stock. And guys, it's not going to be what you think it is. We are also going to dispel some myths about 10x stocks, and we're also going to discuss some individual stocks that might very well 10x and some stocks that I don't believe are ever going to 10x. So there's actually a lot to get into today, and this is for serious investors, guys. This is not for the speculators. This is not for anybody else like that, traders, not one of those. This is for serious long-term buy and hold investors. This video right here is critical, so it's one of these you might very well want to save it for later, so that way you can reference it later. So basically you have the truth that you need to hear to avoid buying complete junk. All right, so the first myth we need to discuss is that your stocks need to actually 10x in the first place in order to be a great investment. Your stocks don't need to 10x at all. That's a complete and total myth. And all I need to do in order to prove that myth is to look at the greatest investor ever, Warren Buffett. Now we can debate what is the greatest ever. Point being, top 2, top 3, whatever number you want to place there. The point being, when his stock that he owns 10x's, it's because he's owned it for 50 years, not because he picked a 10x stock and then the next year it rocketed up 10x. That's not how he invested at all. Slow and steady, basically the tortoise versus the hare, wins the race in regards to investing. So he doesn't have a lot of 10x's. And when he does, it's because he held them for a ridiculously long period of time. I don't know if I've ever heard him ever say that before or use that term before, 10x. I don't know any of that. All that I know is that it hasn't been required at all for him to be the greatest investor ever or one of the greatest investors ever. If your stock just 2x's, not 10x's, just 2x's in the next 7 years, or actually below 7 years, all you got to do is get it in under 7 years, you're actually beating the market during that time frame. So you don't need a 10x in order to beat the market. You just need a 2x in order to beat the market in that under 7 year period. And if you end up with a 4x or a 3x or something like that, you are absolutely destroying the market, on pace to be one of the greatest investors ever during that time. Basically, you're doing better than most people do in the history of the stock market. So the idea that you need to 10x this or 10x that in order to be a successful investor is just completely and utterly false, and not what you need to do anyways. I mean, sure, a 10x is nice, but it's absolutely not necessary. So the second myth is that every stock has 10x potential. I'm sorry, just because some YouTuber says it's a 10x stock and they absolutely love it, or Kathy Wood says it's a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity, or anybody else out there says it's a multi-trillion-dollar this or a trillion-dollar that, or whatever the case is, that does not mean that that is actually true and that's actually what's going to happen. Heck, according to all those people, there's actually more trillion-dollar opportunities than there is money in the world. But, so obviously all of it can't be true. The reality is most stocks are not even going to 10x one time, much less multiple times. So the idea of needing a 10x or all stocks have the potential to 10x just isn't true. Very, very, very few stocks actually 10x during their time in the stock market. So there's no reason for you to believe that narrative and to run down the rabbit hole with that narrative, when the reality is it's probably not going to happen in the first place, so it's absolutely useless to you as an investor to chase it. And like we just pointed out in the previous myth, it's not necessary anyways in order to have a great return and in order to be a great investor. And the last myth we're going to bust today is that all 10x stock opportunities have to be a speculative stock. Look, I bought Apple 20 years after the IPO, after they were already profitable and everything else, and I've had multiple 10x's with that stock. A great stock will give you great returns over the long run, and there's absolutely no reason to speculate whatsoever in regards to the stock market. And remember, you don't need a 10x in order for it to be a great return over the time frame. And again, I understand that Apple's kind of an outlier. I definitely got, quote unquote lucky there. I had the guts to buy it. But obviously, in terms of their performance, nobody could have predicted multiple 10x's from that stock 20 years after it IPO'd. But it happened, and that's part of the reason why I just hold and I don't trade and I don't do a lot of other games like that, because you're going to miss out on those type of runs when they happen. And here's some other examples. I mean, heck, we got Meta at a 4x in under a year. And yeah, I'm so glad we were gobbling up shares like crazy. I was buying it like a madman last year because it's absolutely a ridiculous return in a very short period of time. And heck, look at NVIDIA. It did even better. It's over a 4x right now, and who knows where that train's going to stop. And I wasn't personally buying. I got to be upfront. I wasn't personally buying because it's kind of outside of my circle of competence. Like, I don't really understand the business model that well to invest confidently in it. But I know we had tons of group members that were just lighting up the NVIDIA room every single day with buy alerts when it got down, in the $100 range or so. It was just absolute insanity in terms of those deals. Basically, many of our members weren't comfortable with Meta, but they sure were comfortable with NVIDIA, and they were loading the boat. Which, don't forget, the sale ends in just a few days for my group. If you want to see all my buys in real time and our group's buys, like they were buying NVIDIA, if you want to see those in real time, you want to see my watch list complete with price targets, you want to take 5 courses for free, use our stock analyzer tool for free that other people make you pay pretty much what the cost of our membership is just to access their tool, much less all these other things that we're offering. slide into my DMs. There's just so much, guys. Just check out the pinned comment down there, guys, and see everything that's included in the membership. I can guarantee you won't find a group that has more for less than what our group is, and take advantage of that sale before it expires and the price goes back up. All right, so let's go through some stocks, especially some popular stocks here on this channel that may or may not be a 10x here, and we'll kind of go one by one and kind of talk through them. So first up is Apple, and no, guys, I don't see it 10xing at all. I would love to see it 10x again. I remember back when I got the first one, I was like, there's no way it can continue this pace, and of course it did. So I hate to bet against Apple, but if I'm trying to be realistic here, especially in the multi-trillion-dollar market cap, it's just too large and so much money would have to flood into it in order to create a 10x. It's going to be quite some time into the future, well into the future beyond what anybody can speculate to and figure out what it's going to be. So if you're wanting me to be upfront here, that's what I'm trying to do here. I don't see another 10x coming for Apple stock, but I don't need it to 10x in order for it to be a great investment for me over the long run. So next up would be Palantir, and this is another one that I don't really think we're going to see a 10x, especially in the time frame that everybody on YouTube and everywhere else is putting out there. Now, I'm not saying they can't do that. I absolutely think that they can, and I absolutely love the future of the company. I love the future growth that's going to happen in the company. I love the way they're pacing out that growth. I have no issues with any of those whatsoever. But in regards to, is it going to 10x, soon, or, in the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever timeline's being put out there, that's a much tougher road to hoe because there's a lot of things that got to fall in place in the meantime. And to me, this is much more of I call it like a quiet growth stock, just this nice steady pace, continue to add contract after contract after contract. So it might very well 10x. It definitely has a better chance than Apple of 10xing. But in regards to some of these aggressive timelines that people are putting out there, I'm not sure we're going to make it in that time frame there. So for me, this is one that absolutely is potentially could be, but I think it's going to be sometime further in the future than a lot of the bulls think it's going to be. I love the stock. I'm going to continue to buy it and hold it long term. So to me, a double up is absolutely reasonable over the next few years. A 10x, not nearly as reasonable in my opinion. So next up is PayPal. And guys, in my mind, although I think it's a great stock, I think we're getting a huge discount, it's not really a 10x candidate in my mind. They just really don't have the growth rates to get there. Obviously, they're very mature in their market. Not that there isn't a lot more market share for them to take, but it's not like they're at the beginning of this thing. They're pretty much halfway through to 3/4 of the way through in regards to the journey there. So I just don't see a growth rate to where we can get a 10x move out of that stock. However, having said that, I could easily see a double up over the next few years, maybe even a triple up given how beaten down it is. I mean, it's getting kind of ridiculous at this stage, kind of like it was with Meta. So a double up or a triple up over the next few years would absolutely not surprise me at all. And as we discussed, that right there puts you absolutely crushing the market. So I don't need a 10x in order for this to be a great investment for myself. And lastly, we have SoFi, and I know that's on the more speculative side of the scale, but I think out of all the stocks we just discussed, it absolutely has a chance to 10x over this time frame. But there are a lot of caveats with that, so let's make sure we get into that here. One of the reasons why I think you could have happened to you is because a lot of you guys have a very low cost basis. Some of you guys have cost bases in the fours. I know we got members that have cost bases in the high fours, low fives in regards to the stock. So you have a great cost basis to see a 10x during that time. But I can put a fairly conservative growth rate on the stock and then a fairly conservative multiple as they start to turn profitable there. And I can make a good case that, yeah, it is possible they could very well 10x, over the next 5 years or so. It's honestly not that crazy to look at and to see. But here's the caveat. If Wall Street decides to assign it a multiple that's more in line with what the big banks are in terms of multiple there's nothing you can do about it. And at that stage, getting half of a 10x, I'd be very, very, 5x. I don't think that right there will happen. I think we could see somewhere right around, and I'm talking over the next 3 to 5 years, $20, $25 per share, something of that nature. Before you guys get all upset at me, hey, it's Wall Street's game in the end in regards to what multiple they're going to assign. And no matter what arguments you and I make, if Wall Street doesn't see it the same way and they give it that bank multiple, we're probably not going to see that 10x in any short time. It may happen long term, speculating well into the future. But in regards to anything realistic and in terms of those aggressive growth rates that you're hoping to see at a SoFi in regards to share price appreciation, you probably aren't going to see those if they assign it a bank multiple. So that one right there is kind of the big risk for me and kind of the wait and see for that stock. Hey, that's all right. If you guys don't agree with me, it's okay. If I'm wrong, guess what? I still win because I own all these stocks. So I stand to benefit from it. But the reason why I'm so conservative and the reason why I try to be much more realistic with these numbers whenever I'm looking at them, because it keeps myself from making bad decisions chasing a 10x stock when the reality is 10x stock is much more likely to be fool's gold than it is to be an actually realistic, expectation of your stocks. And remember, if you want to see all my buy and sell alerts in real time, see my watch list complete with price targets, take 5 courses for free, use that stock analyzer tool for free to analyze all these stocks like this to see if it's a 10x opportunity or not, be able to slide into my DMs, jump on our live Q&As. I put out 3, 4, or 5 videos a week just for our group only in there. Obviously, you can be part of the best 6, 7, and 8-figure Discord that's out there today, and so much more. There's so much more coming to the group, guys. Make sure you check out the pinned comment, take advantage of the sale before it ends. And click this video here if you want to see exactly what I'm buying in this market, and click here to see my exact plan for this market. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.